welcome to another episode of Real Property with me, your host, Piladi Mpidi. If you're joining us for the first time, thank you for coming through and stay tuned. In real estate market, have you heard of the phrase, it's a buyer's market or it's a seller's market before? And you asked yourself, what's this buyer's and seller's market? You wondered what a seller's market or a buyer's market is. Well, stay tuned today as I speak about important factors that affect the real estate market and what it actually means when they say that it's a seller's market or it's a buyer's market. The real estate market, like most of the market, depends on the economic law of supply and demand. So when it's a buyer's market, it means that the supply of property in the market is greater than the demand, which gives the buyer an upper hand over the seller when it comes to negotiation of house prices. Properties stay longer in the market, and eventually when they sell for a price that is lower. And on the other side, a seller's market is the opposite of a buyer's market, meaning that there's more demand than there is supply. So it gives an upper hand to the seller over the buyer. And because the demand is higher than the supply, then properties tend to have a shorter time in the market and they eventually sell for a higher price because buyers compete for the product. Buyers make different bids, and in most cases, a bid that is higher is the one that is taking the overall market prices of properties higher. There are many factors that affect the real estate markets, but I just want us to cover only 4 of the most important ones today in this video. The first factor that I'd like us to cover is demographics. Demographics is data that describes the composition of your population, your race, your gender, and also your migration patterns. Demographics play a major role on real estate markets. Not only on the real estate markets, but also on the development of property, because those are some of the factors that developers look at when they plan to develop a certain place. With the age of your population, with the race of your population, developers can sort of work around determining what exactly the needs of the people in the population are so that they can meet them through housing. The second factor that I'd like us to speak about, which is quite a bit obvious, is the economy. Your GDP, which is your gross domestic product, the value of the final good that a country produces, your unemployment rate, manufacturing growth, prices of your services and your goods, they also play a role in the real estate market. When the economy is sluggish, unfortunately, even the real estate markets will be sluggish because who wants to buy a house when it's expensive to produce the building material? Or who wants to buy a house when they can merely put food on the table? The third factor that I will be speaking about is interest rate, the cost to borrow money. Depending on the time frame that you are planning to borrow money for, you will be expected to pay back the principal amount of money that you have borrowed, including interest. And since most of residential properties are bought on a loan, then interest rates have a very bigger role to play in real estate markets. When the interest rates are low, then there'll be a higher demand for property because then people will be charged less money to borrow money over a long period of time. Where else, if the interest rates are higher, then people wouldn't want to borrow money because it would then cost them a lot of money to borrow the money over a certain period of time. The last but not least factor that I'd like us to speak about is government policies, incentives, and subsidies. If government has policies and subsidies that encourage factories to be developed at a certain area, it increases the workforce in that area. And an increased workforce simply means that there'll be a higher demand for both residential and office properties in that area. And manpower would like to live closer to work since it's convenient. So as the place develops, there'll be a higher demand for property and there will be more growth in that area. In most cases, one is advised to get a real estate investment after getting a stable employment. So it's very important that we familiarize ourselves with these factors before we make the investment in real estate. Thank you so much for joining us. If you've watched from the beginning to the end, I appreciate it. Let's meet next time when we'll be speaking about other things pertaining property. Thank you so much. I love you. Goodbye.